Welcome to Fade to Chat, the podcast or videocast where we revisit classic films and talk about why they still matter, or at least why they're still fun to watch. I'm Marty Gensius, joined always by co-host Cindy Rotz. In this episode, we're stepping in the world of elegance, deception, romance, and some really strange character actors with William Wyler's 1966 caper called How to Steal a Million. It's a great 60s cinema. It's got William Wyler directing it. We'll get into that. Stars Audrey Hepburn and Peter O'Toole and the problematic Hugh Griffith. It's romantic comedy. Its setting is in Paris. And it's kind of a fun film. We did not talk about this before the show. I'm really curious, Cindy. I can't remember if you had seen this movie before or if you hadn't, but I'm curious about your reaction to it.
Well, you're right, Marty. You had asked me, and I said, "Oh, it sounds familiar. I think I've seen it before," but I couldn't remember what it was about. I thought, how to steal a million? I thought, are they talking about money? What are they talking about? And then as soon as the movie started, I remembered it. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this movie. I had forgotten Peter O'Toole was in it. And, part of the fun of doing this with you is now I'm really connecting different actors with different movies. It's like now Peter O'Toole in this movie, Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of
Lawrence of
Arabia.
Arabia, yeah.
Two very different characters. But yes, I have seen this movie before, and it's a really really good one. I just hadn't seen it in a long while, so I'm glad we're
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah, Peter O'Toole has had a remarkable career. I will,
Mm,
I'll refer you to a movie that we probably won't talk in this series about. It was called My Favorite Year. And Peter O'Toole
mm,
plays a actor that has been kind of washed up. He was big with the early swashbuckling film, and the character in this was big with the early swashbuckling films. So they're probably trying to do a throwback to some of those. But he's kind of a drunk in
mm.
this movie,
Really?
and he plays a drunk, which is interesting enough alone.
Yeah.
But he is full on Peter O'Toole, and it's a funny movie. There's some great redemption in the end for him as a person. Yeah, it's called My Favorite Year, and it was the year that the protagonist who's
Okay.
talking about working in television, having to bring on this old legend actor and basically being responsible as his keeper for the week while they're putting the production together.
Hmm.
But that was kind of another renaissance for Peter O'Toole. And then even later than that, more recently, he's passed away, but recently he was in some pretty remarkable films as an aging protagonist in these films. So he's just had an on and off career through his life, some of it because of his own foibles, but in general, he has an interesting career and has been in a lot of interesting films. He's sort of one of my favorites, along with yours, Cary Grant. And, there are other, Paul Newman is like one of my favorites
Oh.
too. I can watch him
Mm-hmm.
in anything.
Mm-hmm.
There are some actors that just kind of transfix the roles that they portray. And then there are some actors that you'll run into that are basically playing the same character every movie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Anyways, it's interesting your take on Peter O'Toole. Was there anything in particular when you started watching this movie that was like, oh, I like this, I remember this, something about the style of the film?
Well, I love the character Papa, Nicole's father, and I know we'll talk a lot about him, but
We'll talk about Hugh Griffith.
we'll talk about him, but just his Oh my gosh, his hair and that beard and the eyebrows, and he was just such a character. And I loved what at one point she actually pulled on his little beard, and it reminded me of like a billy goat kind of thing. She was pulling on him. She was scolding him about something. But no, I loved him as a character. Yeah, even though he
Yeah,
caused a lot of drama during the film.
yeah, he was in a lot of films. He was in Tom
Hmm.
Jones. He was in Ben Hur. Um, he sadly passed away in 1980, which is when his last film was produced. The last remake of Beau Jest. He was a character actor in a lot of these. I think he was also in Mutiny on the Bounty
Hmm.
as a character actor. I'm going through IMDb to see that because I've seen him in still shots of him, I think, as part of the cast.
Okay. And the
So,
gentleman that played Leland Davis was so familiar to me.
Eli Wallach.
Yes.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He was
Okay.
in uh, he was in a lot of great films. Um, yeah, God.
I couldn't quite place him because I went through all the different things he was in, but he was a character that I thought, boy, I know who he is.
Oh yeah, he was a character actor.
Yeah. Maybe TV
I
as
think he was
well.
in. Yeah, he was in The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
I think The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Later on in life, The Holiday. Uh, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps.
Mm.
But the one I'm thinking of, besides The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I thought he was in. No, I'm mistaking him for someone else. I thought he was in Being There, but he wasn't. I can't find it. Godfather Part 3. A lot of TV appearances. Highway
Mm.
to Heaven. Yeah. And there were folks that were cast. This is kind of the last cast. There were
Mm.
people that were moving in and out of this um, in terms of that. Audrey Hepburn, of course, was stars as Nicole Bonnet. Her dad basically is a forger. He's an art forger,
Mm.
and he sells his pieces to folks who will never show them or never have them tested because they're like lost Monets or lost Van Goghs. Um, and so there's that whole art forgery piece. Peter O'Toole is mistaken as an art thief by Audrey Hepburn, and she catches him. Actually, what he's doing is he's attempting to take a little piece of the paint off what is a forged Van Gogh. And she catches him in the process of doing this and realizes that if he was successful in stealing it, he would find him, possibly find that her father has been a forger all these years.
Mhm.
And the central story in this is the father decides to donate a small statue, the Cellini Venus, to a museum. And for insurance purposes, he doesn't realize, but it's going to be tested. So it's on view at a museum. It's about to be tested. It will determine that he is a forgerer. And his daughter, Audrey Hepburn, figures she's got to do something. So she connects back with Peter O'Toole, thinking he is a thief, and tries to convince him to steal this piece of art from the museum before it can be tested and it can be insured with the proper testing. So that's the story. And the rest of the caper is how they go about figuring out how to do it, and kind of fun that way. Really, the first choice for Eli Wallach's part was Walter Matthau. He asked too much money. Mm-hmm. And so they went with a less expensive actor at the time, George C. Scott, who apparently showed up on the set the first day late and hungover. And before they began shooting, William Wyler, who was notorious for not dealing with anything nutty on the production, he doesn't want anything to deal with his production, fired George C. Scott. I think George C. Scott's been fired from a lot of sets in his history.
Yeah, sounds.
And they went ahead
we
and
talked about that before.
Yeah, they went ahead and managed to get Eli Wallach for that role, and it turned out a good role for him. Kind of, if you've seen Eli Wallach in other productions, he doesn't play a befuddled person, and this guy was kind of manic and befuddled. So yeah.
Very driven by money.
Yes. And he worked for a large computing corporation. And if you think of the 60s, the only large computing corporation was IBM. So I don't know if that was kind of a swipe at IBM or not. But yeah. Let's see. So Audrey Hepburn. I think I've seen her in a lot of movies, including one we talked about doing and maybe we'll do sometime, which is Breakfast at Tiffany's. I think she is absolutely stunning in this movie. I think if I was going to get heart-throbbed, this would have been the movie I got heart-throbbed with her. This is actually later on in her career. Some of her early films like Roman Holiday, kind of fun, but it's not throbbing my heart. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
But
yes.
this movie,
she's a little more mature in this one.
Yeah, she's also dressed to the hilt in what was couture, and in the look. Yeah. So yeah. Your thoughts on Audrey Hepburn?
Oh, she's gorgeous. Yeah, I agree with you. I just watched her in My Fair Lady. And she was quite a bit younger in that one. Still gorgeous. But this one, she's like more of a mature woman. And I mean, the clothing, and I love that red car, but her clothing just every day from top to bottom, it was just, gorgeous. And her makeup and her hair and just everything. And of course, my favorite was the scene later in a movie where she's all dressed in the black. Eye mask and all that. That was my very, very favorite.
Yeah, I didn't get a still shot of that. I did get a still shot of this. That if you're watching the video, you can see her with her small car. Very tiny cars. There are lots of tiny cars in this movie.
Yeah.
And the kind of full cap hat with the sunglasses and the big white rims on the sunglasses. And the white jacket and outfit, the white gloves, all of that was
all white, head to toe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did a lot of that, like color blocking, one color from head to toe.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Monochromatic.
Peter O'Toole, your thoughts about him in this role?
Oh, I thought he was fantastic. He was again, the chemistry between the two of them, I read that they got along very well on and off, off script, that they oftentimes, had such fun together. And I think it really showed between the two of them. I read that there was one scene where he took her off stage and gave her a sip of brandy or a sip of something to drink to warm her up.
Huh.
And she wasn't used to drinking. Of course, she's very petite, very thin to begin with. I think it was right before she had to drive the car, and she got a little tipsy. And the story goes that she actually knocked over some of the lighting in the scene because she was so tipsy from this drink. She wasn't used to having anything.
Yeah, and
Read
William
that
Wyler
somewhere.
would not stand for any drinking on the set.
Hmm.
He did not, so maybe taking her off the set to be able to have a
Yeah,
little nip to
yeah.
calm her down was Peter O'Toole's intent. But
Hmm.
yeah, William Wyler liked a clean production,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
he
she
he
knocked
did a
over the
whole
lights.
yeah.
That's what I read. She knocked over lights when she had to drive the car. Yeah, I gave her some brandy to warm her up. Oh, it's when she was dressed in her nightgown in that scene in the beginning of the movie where she just had her nightgown on.
Yeah. Uh, William Wyler, as a director, did some remarkable stuff. The Best Years of Our Lives, Ben Hur, Roman Holiday,
Mm.
which would have been an earlier film he did
Yes.
with Audrey Hepburn. Funny Girl. He directed Funny Girl
Mm.
with it, and just a whole series of great films that he did. The Big Country, another great film. The Desperate Hours. Uh, Carrie. He did Carrie. This was
Mm.
1952 Carrie. The Detective Story. Mrs. Minerva, another great film. The Little Foxes. Wuthering Heights.
Mm.
Just
Wow, it's a lot.
yeah, some great movies. And we talked about this before show. I kind of like to follow directors. It's the same way I
Hmm.
do music. When I did music, it was like, "Ooh, I like this artist. Now let me get every album that they made and listen to those, so I get caught up with their whole area and background." But William Wyler, this I think is the first film of his that we did, and it's
I
just
believe so.
a remarkable director.
Hmm.
With regard to Peter O'Toole, in Lawrence of Arabia, he had his hair was blonder, and in this
Mm.
his hair was darker, and you really got to see the blue eyes in
Oh
this. I
yeah.
think you saw it in. I didn't pay as much attention to the eyes in Lawrence of Arabia, but in this,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, the shots were kind of dark and earth tony in a lot of the suits that he wore and things like that.
Yeah.
But his eyes kind of stood out with it. And then, of
Well,
course,
that
yeah,
the scene where he's in her house, that very first scene where he's stealing the painting, they purposely have that painting right up at his eyes, and he just kind of lowers it. And I think that's when you first notice his eyes.
yeah,
And of
yeah,
course, Audrey Hepburn notices his eyes too. When her father asks about this burglar that she caught, that's the first thing she says is, "Oh, he's has these beautiful blue eyes, and he's
nice.
tall
Yeah.
and quite good looking."
So, yeah, we have a couple of
Yeah,
slides of that in the video portion of the show. And yeah,
yeah. So for me, Marty, and I won't go too far into this, but one of the things I loved about the movie was the artwork. I felt like
yeah,
I was in an art history class, and I just tried to write down as many of them as I could. It's like, oh, I recognize that one. I recognize that one. What's the name of that one? And it took me back to even my school days, not just college, but even when I was teaching elementary art. And we had a big collection of art prints in the classroom. And of course, I had access to them on the internet. And I really enjoyed looking at all the paintings and remembering even some of the lessons I did with the kids in school.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting to see all of that, and you can see some of it in the background when you're kind of brought into Bonnet's studio, where he's first working on the Van Gogh. And the one that got me was, and this is a question I have for you. I knew, and I'm showing it in the video portion of
Which
it.
one?
This is
Oh,
Charles
water
Boyer.
lilies.
It's the water lilies. It's a
It's
Monet.
water lilies, Monet. Yeah.
And I thought, here's a art dealer. He's got Monet's water lilies hanging in the back of, in his, that's like museum level stuff. So it also made me think whether or not that was a forgery. And
Hmm.
some of the stuff that he had was forgeries. Because
Yeah.
he set up Eli Wallach Leland with, in the movie, I gave you your first piece, and I've
Hmm.
turned you into a collector, and
Collector. Right.
got obsessive about it. But yeah, I agree with you. It was fun for me because we talked about my history of being left at the Art Institute on Saturday mornings while my sister was
Hmm.
taking classes, and all I did was roam around as a
Right.
10 or 12-year-old and just absorbed all that stuff in my head. It was really great fun for me, and it stays with me as an adult.
Sure. And do you remember when Bonet was trying to copy Van Gogh? I say Van Gogh. I know it's Van Gogh,
Yeah.
but he was trying to copy his signature, and he had his little uh, projector, and he was zoomed in on Van Gogh's signature, which is always just Vincent.
It's a,
And he said, "Oh, how nice of him to only sign his first name. Makes it so much easier for me. I don't have to sign two names." But it reminded me of, again, I did a lesson with the kids in school. It was one of my favorites. We used his painting Sunflowers, which
uh-huh.
is a very popular, kids loved it, I loved it. And part of the lesson was it was symmetry with a vase. And then we cut out and folded, not rather cut out, but we folded origami flowers to fill the vase. And it was a really fun lesson. But when I had the kids sign their artwork, I was always, put your name and room number on your art. Well, this one I said, sign your name just like Van Gogh does. So they were signing their names on the front of their vase. And they just thought that was the coolest thing. He said, "Oh, we're just like a real artist." I said, "Now put your actual name on the back of your paper." But they all signed their names on the vases just like Vincent did. And they said, "Can we just sign our first name?" I'm like, "Yep. For this lesson, you can just sign your first name." So I thought that
Yeah.
was cool
Yeah.
because that's what
Um,
he did.
let's talk about this
No,
guy, Hugh
you,
Griffith.
you, that's your department. That's your
Yeah.
department, Marty.
You
I
know,
was
we
shocked.
put together show notes beforehand.
Yeah.
And I sent you the show notes, and then I went and I did a little more searching because I
Yeah.
wanted to get the controversy clear. Because in the movie, or in some of the notes that you see, like on IMDb and others, they say that he was fired.
Hmm.
However, there's other indications that he wasn't. They'd done most of the principal shooting of him. They William Wyler would have fired him early on, but he had so many important pieces in this that were already shot or already set, and
Hmm.
he's like, okay, I'm just going to have to deal with them.
Hmm.
But and this is not just true for this movie, but for other movies that he's been in, and I've seen a couple of movies that he has been in. He was known as a legendary imbiber. He would drink, and he was frequently intoxicated during the shoot. Kind of made him
Hmm.
difficult to manage because William Wyler was a perfectionist and known for his strictness around this kind of things. The last and probably most well recognized issue was at the George V Hotel in Paris. And I just heard that he
Go
walked
ahead.
around naked in there. I
Yeah.
didn't hear the rest of the story till I did the search on this and found out. He ran through the hotel hallways naked, and he attached a do not disturb sign to his genitals
Mm.
and scratched out the not part. And
Yeah.
so it said do
Oh,
disturb
do
on his
disturb.
genitals. And his behavior was really problematic. So some sources say that he was effectively fired or disciplined during the production, but he eventually remained in the final film because he had already done so many scenes.
Right.
Wyler had zero tolerance for this kind of stuff. He also mentions firing George C. Scott before the production even got started
Mm.
because Scott showed up hungover and not ready and late. Um, so yeah, um, and he only survived the shoot because his role was just too central. Now I think he's
Exactly.
perfect for the role.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and in
Yeah.
other movies that I've seen him in, he has the same hairstyle, the same
Uh-huh.
beard, and the same sort of affectations.
Hmm.
In this, he's an actor that's playing the same role essentially
Yeah.
in all of
Yeah.
the movies that he was in. So yeah,
But you referred to the drinking. They drank morning, noon, and night too in the movie. They were always drinking
yeah,
or celebrating or having a sip of brandy or something to console themselves or to celebrate. They were drinking all the time.
yeah. Everything was a celebration
Everything. Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. Do you have a photo of the Cellini sculpture?
No, I don't.
Really?
Um, and there was one, but I didn't capture it. What I did hear was, at least in the script, it was a full size, life size sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess from a practical and shooting standpoint, making it a smaller version means that it could be transported. It
Right.
could be small. They would be able to get it out of the museum with the tactic that they used for getting it
Sure.
out of the museum.
Yeah.
So
This
yeah,
was only 29 inches.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up, because I brought it up
Mm-mm.
at the end of last show,
Mm-hmm.
Mustasha or
Oh my
Mustache.
gosh. Oh, I have a whole section on him. I have a
Go
whole
at it, have
section
at
on
it.
him.
Here's a
Oh
shot of
my
him realizing
gosh.
that his wine bottle has
Yes.
replaced the Cellini Venus. Um,
Oh my gosh. He was great. And I
yeah.
watched it again this morning and I caught a couple things that I had either missed or not realized. Yeah. What would you like me to start with?
Um, e- anywhere, and I'll fill in if I doubt there's
All right.
something you missed, but I'll fill
Yeah.
in if there's something.
All
There's
right.
a couple of my favorite scenes with him that just
Okay.
made me laugh out loud.
All right. Well, first of all, his station where he always went back to when the alarm would go off was the closet number 4, where they were also Audrey Hepburn and Peter O'Toole were hiding in. And I didn't realize the first time I watched it, I thought, he took his wine or beer. I guess it was wine because it had a cork
Yeah.
in it. He took it out from that red bucket and he took a swig. The first time the alarm went off, everybody else is scampering around, and he's back there just, "Oh, I'm going to take a little swig of wine, before I go and try to look for what happened here." And I didn't realize he had actually taken that from the guards' room to begin with. They were back there
Ah.
playing cards. When I watched it the second time, he kind of swiped it, took it behind his back, took it out there and put it in his bucket so it would be there for him. So the first time, the alarm goes off, he goes out and he takes a swig of beer and he puts the cork in his ear. I missed that the first time. That alarm is going off. He pops the cork in his one ear and he goes off about his business, checking the museum to see if anything had been stolen. And of course, they find nothing has been disturbed and they all go back in. The second time that alarm goes off, they all come rushing out. And I wrote this down. The senior guard says, "Oh, this burglar alarm is specially designed to give me heartburn." And Mustache, the guy, he burps because he had been drinking this. And he was kind of, he kind of chuckled like, "Oh, here we are looking for this missing sculpture and it's still right there." And he was kind of getting a chuckle out of it. And the senior guard looks over at him and he was smiling and he took the tips of his mustache, turned them
And
down
turned
like,
it down.
"I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing at this."
Yeah. My
And then he
mustache
goes,
is going to frown.
"Mhm." So then he goes back behind where he has his drink and he goes like that and flips it back up like, "I'm not flipping my mustache down for you. I'm flipping it back up the way
Yeah,
it should
well,
be."
yeah,
And
he
does a little
first
arm
he
movement.
does a little arm thing to
Hmm.
let people know that
Yeah,
he's not happy with this, and
yeah.
then
Takes a
flips
sip
his
again.
mustache up and is like, "I'm going to have a
Yep.
drink. I'm going to stay
Yeah.
happy." Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the part that I was thinking of.
I love that. And then I better not go on to the next part till we talk about it later. I won't
Oh,
do
go
that.
ahead. We'll talk about it now.
Okay. Well, when Peter O'Toole finally steals, you want me to talk about when he finally steals the
Sure.
sculpture? Okay. Um, he's using this boomerang, which we hadn't talked about yet, but he uses this boomerang to trigger the alarm, and it flies around and breaks the lights
Right.
or the alarm, and everybody comes out, and he takes the empty wine bottle that had been in the bucket back behind. He takes that when he takes the Cellini sculpture. It's just about the same size, might be a little smaller, and he puts it in place of the Cellini sculpture. There it is. So
Yeah.
when they finally come out that last time and he sees his wine bottle there, his hand shaking, he's like, he can't speak. He's like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, there it is," you know. And the guard, his senior guard, who's to the left of him, he's like, "What are you doing? Get back to your post. And you're not supposed to be out here. And you're not following my orders." And then he finally sees what he's pointing at. It's like, "Oh my gosh, it has been stolen this last time." Because he turned the alarm off. He had
Hmm.
it and he turned the alarm off. And so the alarm is not triggered. And so the senior guard just starts yelling, "Alarm, alarm, alarm." And then he actually goes back and turns the alarm. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, I missed that. No. So the alarm has been turned off because
Right.
the first time the alarm goes off, the prime minister calls and says, "You woke me up." And he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." The second time the alarm went off, the president called.
Who's De
And that
Gaulle?
really, yes, that really shook him up. He's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to turn it off. It won't happen again. We're not going to disturb you again tonight." So the alarm had been turned off. But the third time, he tells Mustache to get that wine bottle back down off the stand where the Cellini sculpture is. And when he reaches up to grab the wine bottle, it triggers the alarm for the third time.
Yeah.
And that's when it all hell breaks loose. And at that point, Peter O'Toole had stolen the sculpture, and he and Audrey Hepburn are making their way out of the museum down the back staircase. Oh, and at one point, Mustache slips too because the cleaning ladies had been in there cleaning the floor, and the floor's wet, and he slides and slips and falls. That was a good part.
All right. So, do you have any more points to mention in terms of trivia, things that you would want listeners to know about?
Let me just look here. Um, well, Hitchcock made a cameo,
Ah,
not in
yes.
person, but he made a cameo in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. And I did have a shot of that, but I didn't put it up. Um, so um, he is appearing on a Audrey Hepburn, ironically,
Mm,
is reading a Alfred Hitchcock magazine. They produced
right.
them for many years. You could, they're
Mm-hmm.
basically collections of mystery stories. And she's in
Right.
bed and up reading late. And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, the back of the magazine is the Alfred Hitchcock
Mm-hmm.
magazine, and she kind of reads something and gets scared and then pulls it up to her face. That's when she
Right.
eventually hears that Peter O'Toole is downstairs making noise, and it leads her to get out of bed. So yeah,
Yeah.
Hitchcock makes an appearance in this film, which is kind of fun.
I had quite a few quotes from the movie. I thought this movie was full of great kind of one-liners and back and forth. There are quite a few of them I found particularly funny. I don't know if
Um,
you wrote any down or not.
One last thing I'll share in
Go
terms
ahead.
of trivia, and then let's do quotes, and then
Hmm.
we can kind of move out of the this episode. Um,
Okay.
I was a big fan of a show growing up as a kid called It Takes a Thief. And
Oh,
the premise
yes.
was the premise was you get a thief to catch a thief. It
Hmm.
takes a thief to catch a thief. In
Hmm.
fact, it goes back to the Cary Grant film To Catch a Thief,
Hmm.
and a Hitchcock film. But this show, this television show, was supposedly influenced by this movie,
Hmm.
and it made this movie. They wanted to use some of the premise that if you have a really good thief, they can help you defeat other thieves because they know what
Hmm.
to do. So
Right. Was that Natalie Wood and
no, it was
Robert
her
Wagner?
husband. It was
Robert
Robert
Wagner.
Wagner, and she was not in it
She wasn't in that?
um, to
Okay.
any degree. I forget who. Oh, you know who was in it
No.
and was like his elder mentor? Fred Astaire.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
I
was
don't
an
remember
interesting
that.
show. It was a combination of mainly
Yeah.
Robert Wagner solving burglaries, but
Yeah.
Fred Astaire was in it, which was interesting to see him in an elder thief role as a mentor for Robert Wagner.
Mm.
Okay, favorite lines.
This was between Audrey Hepburn and Peter O'Toole when she showed up at the museum for them to steal the sculpture. She had gotten sidetracked by Leland Davis, who wanted to marry her and had given her an engagement ring. And so she shows up and she says, I didn't want to keep you waiting, so I got engaged to him. She said, Is that all right? Am I late? Am I on time? Peter O'Toole said, Oh, you're perfect late. You're perfect on time. In fact, we have 10 more minutes if you want to go back and get married to him.
Yeah, that was that was the one that I found that made me chuckle. It was sort of
Did
like he was very witty
it? Hmm.
in this film, and his lines were generally generally pretty witty. He was always had these kind of witty comebacks for Audrey Hepburn. So yeah, that would have been the one that I would have selected. So you got me on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
This
there's
would
a
have
whole
been kind
series
of
of great.
a sarcastic thing that I liked what she said when they were at the park and he purchased that boomerang. He stepped in front of that whole line of children. First of all, he's like, well, he said, "Excuse me, gentlemen, I'm the first one in line." Stepped in front of those little boys. But anyway, he
Yeah,
um he purchased the boomerang because he wanted to use it at the museum, and she had no idea why he was buying this thing. And she said, "If you tell me what you're doing and why, I'll buy you a cowboy suit and a set of trains." I thought that was cute.
yeah, yeah. It was so.
They were
Yeah,
just good together.
it's good together. They were so good together. There were rumors that they were having an affair.
Hmm. Right.
And both
They
of
weren't.
them squelched those rumors. They weren't. They became lifelong and good friends, but there was no hokey pokey going on,
Right.
apparently, although that's what the press wanted to believe probably at the time,
Right.
that these two were not just working, but were partnering in a way. So, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of them, but there were just so many lines I thought just spoke to their personalities and how well they worked together.
Yeah. I don't think people in general know much about this film. Of course, I don't hang out with film crazy people. I wish I could. I follow that stuff on Reddit and follow it in other places, and it's kind of reaffirming of my knowledge of films. But I don't think the general public knows a lot about knows of this movie. So it is going to be it's a fun movie if you haven't seen it. Look for it. It shows up occasionally on TCM. I have a copy of it just because I like to have kind of copies of the art that I look at,
Mm.
uh, and since I'm on a family plan with my share, I kind of hope my kids take a look at
Mm.
some of these classics too,
Yeah,
because there's some great stuff with it.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about what we're doing next episode,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then we'll close out for the show.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me choose. I chose another Cary Grant movie, Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House.
And it's got Myrna Loy.
Yes,
So you've got
there
my
you
other
go.
kind of Hollywood heartthrob in there.
Mm,
Not that Cary Grant's my Hollywood heartthrob. I like him as an actor, but Myrna Loy is Thin Man and all sorts of but this is a obviously non Thin Man role, but it's a fun movie. And if
oh, it's really
anybody has
fun.
ever had the experience of having to design or build a
Yeah,
home or have any repairs done on it, this movie was from what, 1948?
I believe so. I'd have to go back. I just went off of it. Yes, 1948. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still relevant today in terms of the headaches and humor
Yeah,
that goes
yeah,
into building a dream home.
yeah.
So yeah, and Cary Grant and Myrna Loy. And Myrna Loy has that kind of deadpan humor. Well, hun, we could always do this.
Mm-hmm.
That helps sustain the film. And Cary Grant is kind of in his kind of manicky, I can't believe this is all happening kind of craziness. So
Right.
yeah, Mr. Blanding builds his dream home. Will be what we're covering in the next episode. Hey, Cindy, thanks for doing this. This is so
Oh,
much
thank you,
fun.
Marty.
And we're gaining listeners. If you're a listener, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're on the watching us on YouTube or picking us up through a podcast, please like us, subscribe to us, and that kind of helps move the process along for us to keep going. we've got some great, before show, we were talking about all the possible movies that we could
So
do.
many.
And I kind of had to remind you, we have plenty of opportunities. There are shows coming up. So
I know.
let's just pick one and move forward. And I think we've got a
Yeah.
good one for next time. That kind of wraps up this episode of Fade to Chat. If you enjoyed our conversation about how to steal $1 million, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. It helps more classic film fans find the podcast or find the video cast. You can find us on YouTube with the video version of this at youtube.com/@fade to chat. You can send us an email at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. And that connects you to whatever projects we're doing. And if you go to our website, you'll see the other projects we're involved in, podcasts and other shows that I get the privilege of being part of. Just go to our website, thepodtalk.net. That's the website that has all the connections to the different shows. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so connect with us and share us your ideas. For Cindy Rotz, I'm Marty Gencius. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep watching the classics, and we'll see you